cactus and succulent growers, I'm Lynn and welcome to Desert Plants of Avalon in the north of Ireland. And in today's video I'm going to be showing you my Ariocarpus Cactus collection and also how I care for them. A special video request by Ivano, Cactus Gandhi here on YouTube, and Cactus Gandhi wanted to know if I could show my Ariocarpus collection and also how I care for them. So if you're not familiar with Cactus Gandhi's amazing YouTube channel, do go over and subscribe. I'll link Cactus Gandhi's YouTube channel up above. So thank you Ivano for the video request, and first of all, I'm going to show you my Ariocarpus collection, and I'm just going to share then how I care for them. Now, I've only got 3 Ariocarpus cactus plants in my collection. I have had more in the past, and sadly I've lost them over the years, but these are the 3 that I've still got here. And this one is, first of all, my very oldest one. This is my Ariocarpus retusus, and I've had this probably for about 30 years. I got it when it was absolutely tiny by, I think, a gentleman called David Quayle many years ago. It's one that he'd grown from seed. And it looks pretty brown at this time of year, a little bit of pink there. But once I start watering this up again, it goes a lot greener. It's one I've had for many years. And I've also got another Ariocarpus retusus here. This one is a lot more greener looking. But this is one I've probably had about 4 years. And I got it from a gentleman called Simon about 4 years ago, as I mentioned. And this one here is also another one I had 4 years ago from Simon as well. And this one, as I say, these two are Ariocarpus retusus, and this is Ariocarpus furfuraceus. So I've only got 3 in my collection, but as I say, the one I've had for a very long time, and I'm going to talk to you about how I care for them in this video. So although my care requirements may be different to other people's, I'm only sharing my experience. Now, first of all, a little bit about these amazing cacti. They may not look like your typical cactus, for example, this astrophytum here, but they are cacti because they have areoles at the end here of their tubercles. Very unusual looking cactus, sort of resembling more like an agave rather than a cactus. And they're from Mexico, and they're normally found growing in soils that are high in limestone. And there's probably around, I think there's around 10 different species. You might find online that there's 8 species or there's 12 species, but from what I know, there's around 10 different species. As I say, I only have 2 different types here, but 3 of these. So how do I care for them? Well, first of all, they love plenty of sunshine. These are highlight plants that obviously grow in Mexico in their natural habitat, so that sunnier position you can give them, the better. I have these here in my polytunnel, so they're in a south facing position as well. They get plenty of sun during the spring and summer months. So if you have these Ariocarpus, don't put them in a north facing window. If you've only got that type of a poor light, then I suggest getting a grow light to put over these plants, because they do need a lot of sunshine. And the soil I use, everybody has their own personal mixes. I know many growers that like to grow these in pure grit. Some like to grow them in just pumice. Some people like to use limestone chippings and everything like that, because they grow on with a high limestone in their soil in Mexico. However, I don't use limestone. I just use a well-draining gritty cactus mix of 40% loam soil. I use John Innes number 2, and that's high in loam. These Ariocarpus do not like to have peat in the soil, so avoid any peat-based commercial type of cactus mixes. I use 40% loam with 40% horticultural grit and around 20% sharp horticultural sand. They are very because they have tuberous roots, they can be very rot prone if they're sitting in damp soil. So you do need to make sure you use a very gritty, well draining cactus mix and avoid peat. And I water them from April up until sort of late summer into the early fall, sort of mid-September. And that's because in my experience, Ariocarpus seem to take a bit of a growth spurt from early spring. And they also then seem to have a wee bit of a rest in the middle of summer, sort of from the middle of June to the middle of July. It's not that they have a dormancy in my experience, but they seem to slow down then. So I slow down the watering a little bit midsummer. And these plants then take another bit of a growth spurt around the late summertime, and they're often fall, autumn flowering as well. You can have them flower during the summer, but they usually tend to flower usually around the early fall time, sort of like mid-September, even into the October, in my experience anyway. So I would water these from April up until the mid-September, and I'd only water them after the soil has totally dried out in their pots. I'm extra careful with watering Ariocarpus than other types of cacti because they have tuberous root systems. So if you have these plants, do be very careful with the watering. Keep them totally dry over the winter months. I don't water these at all from mid-September up until April time. I keep them totally dry. They're pretty cold hardy. I know many growers who have these in unheated greenhouses. However, I would recommend keeping them at a minimum of 4 to 5 Celsius, around 40 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit, to be on the safe side, just because although they can take cold, I always think it's be that extra careful, especially if you live in a high humidity country in winter, such as I do here in Ireland. And I would give them a wee bit of fertiliser probably once every 6 weeks. I'd use a very dilute weak strength of tomato feed every 6 weeks. I wouldn't fertilise these as much as many of my other cacti because they don't need to have as much fertiliser as many of the other types of cacti in my experience now. And so the flowers will be late summer, and beautiful little flowers on these. I'm actually ashamed to say I've never had flowers on mine, even my one that I've had for 30 years. I've had buds come on them many times. Last summer, for example, they were forming buds late summer, and the weather was terrible here with a lot of grey skies, and the buds just dried off and fell off. I was really disappointed. But hopefully I should get some flowers this year. They're amazing, awesome cacti to grow, very unusual. So I hope you found that little bit of information useful. As I say, it's just my experience of growing these amazing, wacky, agave looking cacti. So thank you Cactus Candy for the video request, and do go over and subscribe to Cactus Candy's channel. As I mentioned, the link will be up above. And do you have any Ariocarpus in your collection? Do let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't done already, then do please subscribe and click that notification bell. You can also follow me on Insta, Twitter and Facebook at Desert Plants of Avalon for lots of cactus photos, and lots of flowering photos coming up hopefully soon as well. And check my website out for lots of blogs on there, what I'm getting up to every month, desertplantsofavalon.com. I want to wish you all a fantastic cactus powered day. Bye.